Awesome. So welcome to this episode of the Xaviers podcast, and we're really excited to have Xavier Olivier here with us today. He's the founder and managing director of Dark Matter. So Xavier, welcome. How you doing today?
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, no, I'm just excited to be here. I'm excited to chat around Civitas and obviously our business, and hopefully someone learns something from this.
Fantastic. Yeah, no doubt that that will happen. So yeah, again, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to hopefully learning some of your insights as well as just a little bit more about your business journey and what's brought you to where you're at today with Dark Matter. So just to kick off, Zav, what was the driving force behind you starting Dark Matter?
Yeah, so I think the driving force was a little bit of frustration in terms of what we saw in the market and what we thought we could offer. And what we thought we could offer was accessible marketing, right? But at really high quality and really high speeds. And everyone knows the sort of triangle with regard to speed, price, and quality. And we've got some processes that we developed which allowed us to be a little bit faster, but output at higher qualities. So yeah, it's about bringing accessibility into the market. A lot of the time, people need things now. And we found that the way in which we run our business, we're able to sort of perform at those expectations for clients. So yeah, that's sort of what motivated the entire thing.
Fantastic, thanks. And in terms of your business journey from when you started the business to where you've got it today, how could you summarize that for us, pretty quickly? Has it been as glamorous as Instagram makes it out to be, or did it come with its fair share of challenges?
Well, I can say for one, do not trust Instagram highlight reels. It's definitely an interesting journey. It's not as easy as you think it'll be, but you know what? It's very rewarding. And it's definitely not to say don't become an entrepreneur. I think everyone should venture into doing something for themselves and creating and making something, because it's deeply rewarding, and obviously it would be in line with whatever your passion may be in order to do it. But yeah, I think ultimately the journey has been one where there's been a lot of learnings along the way, a lot of accepting that failure is imminent. It's just how you react to that failure, right? You can't avoid failure. You gotta pick up the pieces and rebuild the block to a bigger block, essentially. So yeah, that's entrepreneurship for me. It's just this constant learning, this constant development, this constant evolution. So like on a basic biological level, entrepreneurship in a sense is also just like this amazing amoeba that just expands as you go along, and I find it just deeply rewarding.
No, fantastic. Thanks, Dave. And I'd be quite interested, if I were a business owner, why would I come and work with Dark Matter? What could you offer me? What problems could you solve?
So I think it comes back to what I was talking about with regard to accessibility with marketing, and that also stems into our creative, right? Is we've built creative processes that can generate what we like to think of as a content machine. And this content machine can sort of catch sort of the shortcomings or the gaps, and really provide a robust system for clients to be able to have content continuously or always on, as they say in our industry. And it's not just any content. It's well thought out content. It's specific to maybe SEO goals or digital marketing goals. So yeah, I think we really offer a really solid content creation process and a creative process that can get people's businesses constantly sort of talking or communicating to the people that might be following them or interested in them in the digital sphere.
Fantastic. And then in terms of businesses that you work with, from what I understand is you work with businesses of all different sizes. Do you find that there's commonality in terms of their digital strategies when it comes to the smaller versus the larger type of businesses?
Definitely not. I think there's different stages for different businesses and the way in which you approach things. I think bigger businesses have ecosystems that are already established, and it's about plugging into those ecosystems and amplifying them, right? They've already got processes that they've built over many years, which you need to understand a little bit more intricately in order to amplify, right? Whereas startups or new businesses, they don't have these processes necessarily. They don't have sales teams either. And we find that's probably it is one of the biggest pitfalls in terms of a digital marketing offering, is that marketing and sales are two completely different things. And a lot of the time people combine them together. But in order for your marketing to do well, your sales team also needs to take those leads and really use them to the best of their abilities in order to convert, right? So if you don't really have a good sales team, and most startups, they probably have one or two guys, in their sales team, for them to catch 40, 50 leads and to deal with 40 or 50 leads within a couple of days, it's not realistic. Whereas a corporate 40, 50 leads, they can chew through within a couple of hours, right? So I think it's definitely different, and the way in which you approach it is different as well. So for instance, and I'm sort of hammering on with the example with regard to sales teams, is that in a big corporate, we would just be doing all of the content marketing, right? And we'd be generating interest, and through that interest, we'd pass that over to a team who's able to take that and convert that. Whereas in a startup, the expectation is almost that they want the agency to convert it for them, right? And then we have to build a sales system or a sales process in addition to the marketing effort, right? So that we can ensure that results are driven at the end of the day. So in effect, my experience is that sometimes with the processes in bigger corporates, although it's a little bit more rigid, it can sometimes actually be easier because you've already got established frameworks. Whereas at the beginning of a business, you're understanding, what is the market really interested in? Do we have a sales team that can communicate that? Do we have people who are on the ground who can take all of the stuff that we've created in terms of marketing collateral or digital collateral, or our messages, and actually get people excited about it? So yeah, I think it's definitely a different environment.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. It's super interesting. And apart from your speed of execution that you mentioned, apart from marrying sales to marketing, or not looking at them in total isolation, do you feel that there's any other key differentiators that clients typically want to work with you for those reasons as opposed to another agency?
Yeah, I would say it's this, well, we call it house of content, right? It's an internal system that we've built, and what it is actually a web app which we use to better inform the way in which we go about creating campaigns and making content for our clients. And what we do is we sit every Tuesday and Friday, and we use this web app internally in our team to structure our engagements and our thought processes, because we found over the years that a lot of the time creative can stray away from end objectives, and our creative workshop informs those objectives, and then we take them and we feed them into this web app. So we ensure that we're always on point, that we're always doing things that the client asks for, and that there's sort of a seamless communication between our team in terms of the creative and what gets outputted. So yeah, we're super excited about the results that we've created with this dashboard that we've got going now, and we're sort of connecting it to every single other point in our business, which sort of makes it nice and scalable in a way. And I'm really excited for other people, other clients to check out what it can do for them.
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks for that. Sounds super interesting. And perhaps we can chat about that or touch on it again shortly. But one thing I would want to know is that, marketing is obviously a critical function of any business. If I was a business owner and I was really starting to tap into the marketing realm or looking to improve my marketing efforts, what's some of the best piece of advice that you would give me to help me increase my odds of success ultimately?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I think one that everyone wants to know. I think number one, and it's completely basic, is first understand who your real customer is, right? A lot of clients that we engage with don't really think about segmentation, targeting, and positioning. I know that's business book 101, but STP, or segmentation, targeting, and positioning, is just the building blocks for anything you're going to do thereafter. What do these people like? What do they want? What do they think about? Where do they hang out, right? where do they go? Because there's no point going onto Facebook and launching R1 million worth of ads if your target market's not on Facebook, right? And we've seen campaigns where we just turn them on and it works, and it's like wildfire. But that's not because we're amazing. That's because it's where the target market currently is, and all it took was understanding that they'd be there. So I'd really implore any business person or business owner or startup, who wants to engage in the marketing activities, is to first think about who these people really are. Who is my ideal customer? What is their profile? What are their psychographics, demographics, geographics? And once you really understand that, once you understand behaviors, then you can start building activities around those behaviors, because it's pointless to dive in and say, okay, cool, we're going to go do Google and Facebook and Instagram and then LinkedIn, when these people aren't really there, right? So yeah, I think that's just the most important, like, basic starting block. And then from there, once you've got that information, you can go to an agency, or a studio, or whatever it might be, and say to them, okay, listen, these are the people I want to talk to. These are the people who I think will buy my product. What is your plan around communicating to them?
Fantastic, thanks. And I guess one of the obvious ways to go about this is to get out there and speak with customers. Any other strategy that you would recommend one to explore to really get a good stronghold on who their ideal customer might be?
Yeah, so I mean, there's things like segmentation, targeting, and positioning workshops. We actually do those. You could very easily just get a framework online, an STP framework. The workshop obviously has got some strategists and creatives in, so it helps to ask maybe different questions that you might have not asked. But other than that, you can do it on your own. You can jump into a framework online, and just fill that out. It will ask you some key questions. There's a couple on Google that I've seen, and you just answer those questions, and you do it in a team. And I would suggest doing that isolated as one individual, and then taking it to everyone in a group and then discussing it, because a lot of the time, groupthink can actually taint who you really think your customer is, and it becomes more interesting if people do it in an isolated manner, because ultimately then it drives a discussion for possible variants or things that other people wouldn't have thought of, right? So yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, super interesting. Zay, one thing that you mentioned earlier was how you manage your projects and your project communication with clients and internally. I'd be quite interested to know, how you run a really hyper efficient function of your business. This sounds like it could be one of them. There might be some other processes or internal strategies that you found, that are really working well now after some learning and experimentation. Would you be willing to share with the audience, how you run one of these functions and perhaps what the key outcome of the improvements has been for the business?
Sure. Yeah. So that's quite a big question. One I would have to think a little bit about, but yeah, I think it goes back to content and production, right? And it's that age-old sort of question in the digital realms: is content is king, but content is hard, right? Like, it's hard to make content and feed the content machine and this content beast. And I think it's just something we've been going at for so long, the last 6 or so years, in terms of how do we make it more seamless to constantly have content on, to constantly be feeding campaigns into the machine and into these algos, so that we get up ranked and that the snowball goes bigger and bigger and bigger, because that's ultimately the game you're playing on digital, right? Is consistency. And to build consistency in content and to constantly have fresh and new ideas, it's a big task. It's not an easy task, and you do need a team of specialists. I think it's probably not what the audience wants to hear. Go hire a team. No, but it's unfortunate that you do need people who are sitting in a production space. You do need someone, and if I expand on the production space, is a graphic designer, or an illustrator. Then you need a copywriter to take all of that copy. Before that, you'd even need your strategists and your creatives. And then you need a traffic manager. I think that's also one of the most important things, is making sure people are moving the market constantly to the necessary resources that are required to feed this machine. And I think that's why agencies, human resources are the most valuable thing. Like the most valuable thing is having good resources or good people who know what they're doing, and can do it, up to par, up to expectation of clients, and just keep things moving, right? I think it's just a continual momentum that you need. I think a lot of agencies or smaller agencies, they skip the part to have a traffic manager. I think maybe the managers or the directors or the owners play the role of traffic management, but traffic management is so important in terms of processes and in terms of moving things around. And we've got a variety of different sheets we use. I mean, it's as basic as using Excel spreadsheets and understanding when content ends, when more content is needed, when creative sprints need to happen, when designers have been assigned their necessary production run, and when that then goes to the copywriters to then sort of add their pizzazz in terms of the campaign, and the call to actions and driving it to landing pages for conversions, right? So yeah, I think the machine is really just people, or the process is really just like strong people, and that for me is what a strong agency is, really, is just really, really good people who can move the market consistently. Yeah, I'm not sure if that helps or if that confuses.
Totally. It does seem that there's often that balance of quality and quantity that's required, and I guess working with agencies, you really allow or present the opportunity to tap into this talent, as you mentioned. Zabe, where would you want to take this business? What are your ambitions for Dark Matter?
Yeah, and I think that connects to the previous question, or the previous answer rather, is my vision for this is to have as many talented people in our business as possible to make amazing work for our clients, right? And you only make amazing work with talented people and vice versa. So I call it the 100-100. It's 100 great people with 100 million in profit, every single year. So that's the vision. It's the 100-100, and it's just to have amazing people making amazing things. Because I've seen where we draw the most value or create the most value for clients is making things that make them go wow, or like, yo, I didn't think of that, or that campaign, it really just cut through all the noise and it outperformed anything else that we've launched, prior to this. And that's what really makes me happy as a business owner, is to know that we can have that effect. And then my next question for myself is, how can we create more of that, right, at scale? And I think the only way you can do that is obviously with really rigorous process and really talented resources. So yeah, 100-100.
Yeah, 100-100. Love that. Thanks for sharing that. And I guess the one big question before we start to wrap up is, if you had to go back now, restart the business, or get going from scratch, anything that you would do differently really early on in the process, based on some of the learnings and experiences that you've had to date?
So much. As all entrepreneurs say. Elon Musk, one of my favorite things from Elon Musk is that he said, like, for the first 5 years you don't know what you're doing, and then all of a sudden you figure it out. He said it in a different way, so that's not verbatim, but I laughed when I heard him say that. But yeah, I think it's a constant evolution, right? It's a constant growth. You never get it right the first time. If you did, like, luck and opportunity and intelligence all met together. And I think a lot of guys who are successful, they do say, oh yeah, I made it and it was great, and I just did X, Y, and Z, and you should just do X, Y, and Z. And then someone else goes and does X, Y, Z, and it doesn't work. And I think that's because, if we're honest with ourselves, we need to just accept that a lot of things change all the time. But to be specific, so that's just my broad answer. To be specific to things I would do differently, I think definitely processes at first. Like, that's not something I considered at first. At first, we were making cool stuff and we were, winning new clients. And that was all we were concentrated on. It's just like, make cool campaigns, come up with cool creative, and win clients. But, you eventually get to the point where you got so many clients on your plate and you're running all of these different projects, and you got to balance it all. And the only thing that catches that, or the only thing that's a safety net is process, is like going back to process and saying, okay, cool, where are we currently and what do we need to do and who's responsible? So yeah, I think just process for me is the biggest thing. And I've heard some other guys, I've got some friends obviously also own agencies, they all tell me like it all comes back to process. So yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, the process is needed to really, ensure that, especially when you're client-oriented business, it's obviously there to play a massive supporting role. And so, just to finish up, if anyone's keen to chat with you, how can they find Dark Matter? Any specific website address or contact details that you'd like to share with everyone listening?
Yeah, so dark M, DARK, and then M for marshmallow.co.za, 5 letters. You can check out our website, fill out the contact form. It does go directly to our management team. So we look at that. Our accounts execs look at that. So we can get in touch with you if you want to chat.
Fantastic. Xavier, thanks so much for joining us today. Much appreciated.
Cool. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Ciao.
Cool. Cheers.